Are we live? Oh, there we go. Well, hello everyone. Thank you for being able to come join us for our latest London BuildStation. This is our 4th iteration of the BuildStation. So I hope you're able to take on and be able to experience all the previous ones. And if it's just your first time, I hope you enjoy. The design of it is over the next couple of weeks. We've got a bunch of different mentors, speakers here to be able to help accelerate your startup. There's right now going on the big Coliseum hackathon. So there's 4.5 million in pre-seed funding and prizes up for grabs. And our pure job over the next couple of weeks is to help you win. We've been awesome enough to have some previous great winners from the UK. And here today, we have Cloaked, who was one of the previous grand prize winners of the Hyperdrive hackathon. And so we're going to be diving into all of his experiences, his lessons, his learnings to be able to give you guys a lot of secrets. And then for people here in person, we'll do a workshop afterwards directly with Cloaked and another one of the other hackathon winners as well. So you get a chance to get some one-on-one conversations and really dive deep into all the alpha. So everyone online gets to see this lovely conversation now. And if you're here in person, you guys get the proper alpha afterwards, curated to your startup and what you're being able to build. So it pays to be here in person. We're going to be doing these live streams every day. Again, if you can notice a couple people, it's a lunch and learn. So we've got free lunch for everybody at BuildStation. Each day we'll have a new speaker come in. So it's 1 p.m. Lunchtime. We'll have like 45 minutes, an hour conversation with the speaker. And then afterwards we'll go into then that workshop. We then also have a roast later on in the days as well. So more between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. There'll be a chance to speak to a panel of experts. Each day there's a different theme. And the design was, rather than doing typical workshops where someone's just speaking to you about whatever they're doing, we wanted to give you guys a chance to be able to speak to the experts directly and not just have one expert there, but to have a few experts so you get a varied opinion to what you're creating and what you're building. And hopefully out of that, get like a really tangible outcome. So later today, it will be about fundraising after your Coliseum. So what should your plan be? We've got Legion coming in who are talking all about how you can do your own token launch. There's Alex from Monk Advisory talking about how what's part of raising is also scaling at your operations. And then we have Serge from Cartrix be able to tell you from the VC perspective what you should be looking at and how you should be approaching that fundraising journey. So that's the design each of the days. And then I'm also going to be doing a podcast at the end of the day. So that's where we have the little podcast studio set up over there. So that will be live streamed at 6 p.m. So everyone can be able to watch us for that. And I'll be highlighting Pacific builders over the course of the couple of weeks. So there's going to be only 10 slots for one of those podcasts. Hopefully that will be one of you. And then that way we'll be able to dive into a little bit more about your story. So your founder journey, how did you end up building your startup? From your childhood, how did that lead you to now? And then what's your vision for what you want to be able to do moving forward? So without further ado, let's get this conversation started with Cloaked. And so, Cloaked, why don't you just first introduce yourself, tell everyone a little bit about how long you've been in the Solana ecosystem, your journey through that, what you've been building, and then we'll dive into a few more different things about the hackathon later.
Sure. Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, so I'm Cloaked or Scott. Cloaked Dev on Twitter. I started my engineering career about 15 years ago now. So I originally started off in Web 2, was in a very small startup doing kind of globally distributed advertising. And then I moved into kind of some more large scale tracking and tracing implementations with a larger company. So over the past kind of 5-10 years, our technology has gone from being a very small startup to pretty much any major city you go into now, you'll be seeing or see my technology that we've built. So that was kind of the precursor to it all. So it's been a better part of 10 years in the Web 2 ecosystem, standard kind of corporate stuff, and then doing kind of the globally distributed tracing, realized there's a bit more of a need for crypto as we're kind of getting into this more hyper-connected world. So I made the full jump about 5 years ago into Solana. At the time, I was doing a lot of research and development on blockchains for Web 2. At the time, it was a little bit too kind of immature in terms of getting that adoption into those industries. But saw huge opportunity with Solana. This was around the time of kind of where Solana was up at $300. So jumped in right at the top and then rode it all the way down and then back up again for the next 4 years. And during that time, we've just been building pretty much everything we can get our hands on. We started off with going in on kind of metaverse plays. So we're building digital worlds based off kind of the large scale simulation stuff we were doing previously. We knew it was going to happen.
We knew it was going to happen. It's pretty funny though. This is a good eye for Puma.
Yeah, not sponsored by Puma. Yeah. But yeah, so started off building Metaverse, and then from there, we realized there was a huge opportunity on the infrastructure layer of Solana. So we started getting involved in kind of transaction delivery, block engine optimization, and just some kind of services provisions for all sorts of NFT platforms and DeFi platforms. From there, we jumped in on Token 2022. It's changed names like 5 times now, but when we were doing it, Token 22, so we were the big kind of pushers behind getting that adopted across all the wallets, the DeFi exchanges, and off the back, we launched Fluxbeam, which was our, at the time, brand new beta implementation of Token 22, allowing users to kind of experiment, and we worked with Bonk to do Burn, and a few other kind of large token launches. We obviously launched Fluxbeam as well, our own token, but that followed up from our first hackathon win, of where we launched Fluxbot. So that was the initial kind of trading Telegram bot prior to kind of the big wave that we saw over the past couple of years. So we delved into that for a bit, and that's still going well, focused on kind of mainly around sniping and copy trading. We then moved out and branched into RugCheck, which is our token detection and analysis tool. We noticed at the time there's so many rugs and scams going on. We thought, let's try and kind of improve the landscape a bit. So we've worked with all the major DeFi exchanges, and I think we're now integrated into about 90% of the ecosystem from RugCheck. And then we've got a few new kind of features coming up over the next couple of months, mainly on the infrastructure layer to kind of reduce bandwidth and increase latency, more from a developer perspective. So not so much the IBRL we're seeing from Solana. This is more focused on the developer layer of getting kind of the data across to you guys in a reliable fashion, rather than having to deal with the nightmare that is the Solana Giza stream or the RPC layer. But I think that's a rattle-stop tour of kind of where I've been for the most part.
Yeah. And when you first came in then to the Solana ecosystem, coming in, like, what was your first experiences? You know, how did you first like find getting into the space, and like even just like find your team to be able to work with, and then start then building out the projects? Because you went through multiple different iterations, shipped multiple different types of products, and you've been through that cycle. And what we recommend to all of the founders is you want to be able to ship, get to market, get the feedback from the users, iterate from that feedback, and then you'll continue refining what you're creating based upon that. How was your experience jumping in, getting involved, and being able to find your team to build out all the products?
Yeah, I mean, it was tricky. I think when I started in Solana, I think there was maximum 75 devs. So
it was very early.
It was literally one Twitter group that we had, and everyone's just kind of chatting in there. So the ecosystem was really small at that point. It's grown a lot since then, but I found it great jumping into the Solana ecosystem. Obviously, you always have kind of the gatekeepers and stuff, but once you get into start talking to real ecosystem builders, it's such an open and friendly kind of ecosystem. You can always message someone. It doesn't matter if it's Gito or Radium or whoever, they'll always give you an answer, which is such a change from Web 2. So I just basically jumped in head first. I started building some metaverse stuff, and then I think my first true experience was getting rugged on Magic Eden for some NFTs. So yeah. So that got me interested in kind of the whole sniping aspects, and from there, that kind of just pushed me through. I'd say probably the one biggest thing I'd say coming into Solana, it is really important finding that team early, get 3 or 4 core guys that can kind of do everything in your company. I took it a little bit differently. It took us maybe a year to scale out to find a true solid team. And just given how much is going on in Solana, you really do need 2 or 3 people that can kind of back you up. And because it's 24/7, ideally multiple different time zones, because it helps so much with support in the early days.
Yeah, because being able to have that inner core team, you know, it's like, how did you guys find managing like remote working? You know, were there quite a few you all clustered together? How did you find that culture building when you're first being able to start out?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. We've actually gone fully remote first. So we do have a small presence in Vietnam of where we start to build out some kind of junior developer positions as like a mentoring side. But for the most part, all of our core team members are fully distributed across the globe. So that was brilliant for the early days. If we had coverage across support, because we were all bootstrapped, so coverage across support of the entire 24 hours. We had people in Canada, Africa, Germany. I will say we've gone through our fair share of churn just to get the right kind of people. With remote work, you have to be very on top of actually making sure people are doing what they say they're doing. It's very easy to kind of mismanage from that side. I think that's probably the biggest learning we took, was really ensuring that those core members that are there can be relied on and not a little bit flaky. Because I think the longer you go on this path, you're looking at a 2-3 year journey when you start out. So having those core members in to start with is so important.
Was there any lessons that you took away, like mistakes that you made when you were building together your first team to be able to work together that you would be able to share?
Yeah, I think for the most one, being overly trusting to start with. Like being in crypto, the first thing should be don't trust, verify. So yeah, really vet your staff. I mean, we've had the whole works over the past couple of years of North Koreans trying to get jobs to all sorts of shady implementations that you see once they've kind of got through a first initial couple of stages of interviews. So be really rigid on your interview process, do your background checks, do your referencing, and then actually speak to them. Like go and visit them. If you're doing a remote team, for the sake of a plane journey, it's honestly worth just going and sit with them face to face. I think that's probably the biggest one that we didn't do. And when we started doing it, it just paid off in dividends because you get a real kind of human-to-human connection rather than it's hard sometimes when you just purely remote, it's just screen to screen. I think having that person-to-person connection kind of brings the bond a little bit closer.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And like, if you can't just like fly out to them, you can use the Solana global events as an excuse to all come together. You know, you've got the Apex ones that are going all across, Accelerate in New York, Breakpoints. You know, you've got all of these then different spaces where you can be able to create that environment. Cool, we're all going to fly into here and we're going to be able to get that time together. There's tons of different community events as well, like Island DAO, like all of these then different like pop-ups for even like build stations and startup villages where it's like, cool, we're going to fly here and we're going to stay here for a couple of weeks all together. And we're going to be able to get that experience or co-working. And then we go back to then like the remote life that we have. But then, as you said, you get like proper human connection. You know, you get to work with your team and really be able to feel like they're part of the vision, you know, and what you're being able to create.
Oh, absolutely. I think especially in that first kind of couple of months as well, where you're first doing your first hackathon, being in person is just such a huge benefit. Like no matter what anyone says, if you're all sitting in a room locked in for 12 hours a day, 16 hours a day, you're going to get something out quicker than everyone kind of waking up when they want to, still grinding, still pushing away. But remote's a very different kind of environment. Whereas in your hackathon, you really want to just be locked in for that heavy week and then go your separate ways. But the velocity you can keep up when you're all in the same room, all locked in a specific location, especially with like say Solana Breakpoint or any of these co-working spaces, if you get stuck, the easiest thing is to just go speak to someone. Yeah. Whereas if you're remote first, you have to go Discord or find someone willing to help. It's the perfect kind of place to start one of these hackathons.
Exactly. And it's why we create these build stations. You know, this is a 24/7 venue. So you can be co-working at 3 a.m. You know where to be. You have those mentors around you during the day to be able to help support. So you can unblock really quickly. As you said, like that's like one of the biggest things. There was a London hackathon a couple of weeks ago by Co Club that we did. And one of the huge things that got out of it was that we had Bill doing DevRel at 2 a.m. You know, like that. And that was like something that really helped. You know, everyone else had left by 7 p.m. It's a 24-hour, well, it's a 48-hour hackathon. There was 2 nights. And like, if you're not staying there till late, then you're not going to be building during it anyway. You're not going to be able to ship enough as the developer. But then you need those mentors. You know, you need them people there to be able to help support you so that you can be able to unblock really fast.
Especially with the hackathons now, like I think 3-4 years ago, like I said, there were 75 devs. So you knew everyone else who was competing. Nowadays, like they're so competitive in terms of the hackathon and what's being entered in. You really need to kind of make the most of that period. Because the other teams you can guarantee will be grinding 5 times harder. So it's getting a lot more competitive now, I say, and just try and make use of these co-working spaces and just spreading as many kind of contacts as you can, because the more people you integrate with or the more people you speak to is going to help you in the judging stages later on as well. Yeah.
And so let's then like dive into a few of the different hackathons that you've been able to do before. I know one of the big things that I got out of when you won at the grand prize at Hyperdrive hackathon, and when I spoke to Maddie about it, it was like, you guys have been submitting multiple times. You know, like you were consistently competing into them. And that was even like a factor into you guys being able to win the grand prize. You know, that consistency, that development, that like constantly showing up in the ecosystem. I always see you on the timeline now being able to like security check, making sure everyone's all protected, calling things out, you know, but how did you find those hackathons and that journey that you had?
So we enter every single hackathon anyway. It's just something we do. But prior to winning, we entered, I think, 5 different hackathons. So we did the Helios hackathon, which I think was probably one of the first ones we did, was great. Did the Radium one, did 3 Solana hackathons. All the time we didn't place. So it's very through that. But I think the key is once you realize how these hackathons are judged and what you may have been missing from your product, it's not necessarily always that you've got a bad idea and judges didn't like it. I think the big learning thing for us is how to present, or getting it in front of the right people, or getting people to say the right things about it, either from a public perspective or by speaking to the judges or the mentors and getting feedback during that process. That was one of the biggest things, was building more publicly. I know it's hard in the start because you don't want to give away kind of the crown jewels, but being able to show off stuff constantly, engage with people on the timeline, I know it might seem kind of trivial to start with, but Solana is 90% on crypto Twitter. Like if you want to get in hold of any judges or devs, that's your target audience. So when we won, we really focused on, okay, how do we engage the community as much as possible? How do we get in front of the judges and say, hey, look, we've got a really cool idea. Please actually look at the pitch deck rather than doing a 2-minute skim through. So a lot of that was prior to our pitch deck kind of being in front of those judges. They'd already seen maybe 5-6 pages of it because we've been plastering it all over the place, retweeting them, trying to get them engaged, trying to get their feedback. Because by then, you're actually getting a bit of buy-in from them rather than if you try and pitch someone cold. It's such a hard job. And when they're going through 200-300 applications, you've really got to stand out on that first slide or have kind of vision from them.
Like it's a good point of like the building in public, getting that feedback from them, and as well, you know, not just like mentors around you, but the judges who are out there. Like it's open to anybody. You know, it's like right now we're streaming on Twitter at the moment. You know, anybody can be posting onto it. Anybody can be tagging them, pushing it out, and you've got to find that little hook to be able to like push you out there. Like what were some of the lessons that you took from being able to engage with the judges, share with them, you know, like, was it just cold? Was it DMs onto Twitter? Was you posting and tagging them in it? Or how did you find that communication? And then did it lead to like having calls with them? Were you sharing over like, what was your process in order to get their feedback on what you were building?
Yeah, so I think when we won the hackathon, our main focus was either getting face-to-face in-person time with them or getting them via a DM. So we had our whole team reaching out to cold DMs to every single judge, to every single person that we knew was involved in the entire ecosystem, trying to get feedback, not going, hey, look at our pitch deck, but hey, this is the idea we've got. We want to do this for the hackathon. Can you give us 2 minutes of just feedback? One of the main things I did was I just went to every single Solana event, 3 months proceeding. So I pretty much just hunted down every single judge and tried to cold pitch it. And I think just getting out in front of people is the only way to do it. And especially stuff like this. And like Breakpoint was our big one. We got there 3 days early from Breakpoint and just kind of nailed down what we wanted to do, who we want to speak to, and just kind of have a game plan of who you want to get ticked off and what you want out of them, if at all. Like if it's just, okay, can you get me a bit of advice? Can you do a retweet? Any kind of social engagement that you can get is going to do dividends kind of long term in the hackathon. I think a lot of it is weighted more towards social hype rather than like we're all engineers or developers. Okay, it's cool to see kind of a lock free cash, but no one really actually cares about that. They care about how hyped it is on Twitter and who's actually using it, how many customers you've got, is it generating that interest? So I'd really focus on that rather than technical excellence, so to speak.
Because there's a lot to be said around Coliseum. They've launched their fund, a 6 million fund to be able to invest into these startups. There's 15 of the winners who then go into the accelerator. And so they're taking the perspective of like, I'm managing this fund. I'm looking for these hot founders. Startups are on fire, products that people actually want and need. And when they are reviewing so many, they're the idea of like, oh, you've got customers who gave you feedback and they actually like what you're building, you know, and you're able to tell that story concisely and concisely. That then gives them the validation that they need to be like, okay, cool. You guys are onto something. A fun one that we always say to people as well is like, you want to teach them something. You know, like when you do get that conversation, you know, even before you ask for a little bit of feedback, you know, it's like, what do you know about the market which they don't know? And that you're able to kind of share with them that make them think like, oh, okay, I didn't know that. You know, piquing their curiosity, getting them interested in that is then a way that you're able to really show your expertise. You know, like we have this big thing of like founder market fit. You know, you want to be the right person building this startup. And if you're able to teach the mentor, the judge, something about what you're building, that's a clear show of example, what you're able to do. You know, you want to show, not tell them around it. And those then different milestones are ways you're able to position it and able to share with them exactly, I'm the right person to be able to build this. I just said that little bit of social hype, the engagement behind it shows that now is the right time. And we've been able to get to market to a basic level. And then now we really need your help to start like scaling this and taking it that next step forward.
Yeah, it's all about that story. Like you've really got to sell the story to them of like, they see 100 of probably the same product every single day. So it's got to be, they've got to have a buy into it, and developing a story around it of why this is needed or why it's good or why someone should care, I think is the best way of doing it. And then your pitch deck is the most important thing. I know it's a hackathon, but that's what the judges look at. They're going to look at the demo maybe, but they'll start off looking at that pitch deck. And if that doesn't grab them on like the first or second page, realistically, the first page, you've lost them. So I'd say spend more time on the pitching and getting that deck nailed down, get it reviewed by as many people as you can, get it shown by people, dry run it as 1,000 times, and definitely speak over it as well. Because again, it's on that person-to-person thing. If you've got a little loom thing there and you're going through your pitch deck really concise and clearly, and it's in under 5 minutes, you're going to stand a much, much better chance than either having like an AI gen over the top or just a blank presentation. Because again, it's trying to capture that initial 30 seconds of interest. Once you've got them, they'll read the whole pitch deck. But it's key to get that first bit done.
Yeah, like with the one-liner, you know, like when they do see it, your title, your one-liner, that first page, you know, it captures them because even they see the one-liner even before they open the deck. You know, they see the title in your one-liner, and one-liners are very difficult to do. You know, it's like it's not something that's easy to be able to put together, and you've got to be able to somehow tell, okay, this is my entire project. This is what makes us unique. This is why we're going to be able to win, and this is the opportunity that we're being able to tap into, all into like 10 words. And that's why, like, you talk about like your pitch, like then that deck, like when you're creating that process of narrative, that process of practicing your pitch, you start to get closer towards what that one-liner is. And that's what we're all here for today as well. You know, over these next couple of weeks, we're going to be able to help you. I want to be able to sit down with every single one of you to be able to get that time to be able to go through it, look over what's where you best pitch it, what could that potential one-liner be, really make sure that we're honing in and getting the right angle to go into it. Because that's like a huge part, as you're saying, of the submission, is you can build the most amazing thing, but if you can't talk about it right, then nobody's going to properly be able to see it and understand it to the level that you get it. And then that's where we're able to open the doors. On Friday, we have our pitch day. So there'll be a bunch of like specific other mentors coming in to review your pitch decks with you, to be able to practice doing rehearsals of your presentations. And then we got a fun little pitch roast as well. So you get like a practice pitch. We've got Robbie Young from Animoca Brands, James Burney from Gunnar Cook, and Alex from Bonk Advisory being able to come in and look over that with you guys. So you get the chance to be able to get like some honest feedback on your pitch. It's usually a 3-minute pitch video that you'll be able to present, and then like maybe a 5-minute technical demo video that goes into it. So we really want to hone in on that pitch, make sure that's clean and concise. You know, you pique their curiosity. You make them want to then watch that demo video to then see about everything you've been able to build. So yeah, there's going to be a lot on being able to bring together that. So make sure you guys have like the strongest chance of being able to submit and win.
Yeah, I think as well, like going over the previous winners, and like all the pitch decks are still available online. I think for the history of all these hackathons, if you look through every single winner, you will see that there's a very specific format that they use for their pitch decks. So this is what we got back from like kind of countless feedback sessions. There is a specific way you can kind of structure that PowerPoint so that it grabs them like the most. Don't bot like obviously yes, you're looking to fundraise, but don't go with something crazy like a 10 billion TAM or something crazy. Like focus on you see it so much. Focus on exactly what you're aiming to achieve. Get it as concise as possible. Like you're gonna have, if you win, you'll have Colosseum that's going to help you with building all that fundraising and building the tokenomics anyway. So obviously it's important to include, but don't focus too much on that. Really focus on that story. Like the first 3 pages, let's say, is where you need to get them. Otherwise, there's no point with the other 6.
And like a nice way that I like to ground things in telling that story is try to focus on one customer, you know, and like, what is Jeff or Jessica? Like, well, what is their story? How are they benefiting from what you've been able to build, and showing that as like part of your story, because it helps kind of then like properly allow you to understand how to communicate it, because you're communicating it from the perspective of this is the value given to the user and why they were going to want to be a customer and help us be able to be a part of it.
Yeah, I think as well, like who your customer is like really important. I think a lot of people think, okay, build it, they will come. Doesn't work. Like we tried it, we tried it 3 times. It doesn't work like that. You have to go out and find these customers. And the biggest mentality change we had from kind of the failed projects we started with versus kind of what we've got to now was just one key thing of how can I make customers money? If you can answer that, you're onto a winner. If you can't, you're going to struggle to get, especially in crypto, you're going to struggle to get those crypto users because they're going, well, I've got a finite amount of time. I'm going to put it where I'm going to either make money or not lose money or not get rugs. So while stuff like games and stuff are excellent, there needs to be some way of kind of drawing those users in, kind of looking at the crypto market that we've got. It's very, very hard to try and say, okay, yeah, we're going to go out and fetch a load of Web2 users, because 90% of Web2 users still aren't going to come to crypto because of the scammy nature perhaps, or whatever it may be. But that's such a hard barrier to pass, rather than going, okay, we've got a captive audience that's coming to this breakpoint. What do they want? How are we going to make them money? Or how are we not going to make them lose money? And then focus really on that.
And so that was the hackathon journey. And then so what was it like after winning the hackathon? Like how did that feel?
Yeah, busy. I mean, I think like we took a lot of learnings from it. So we won the Amsterdam hackathon. And then the day after, we decided it would be smart to launch a token. We had the token plan, but we thought, hey, look, we'll use the hype of winning the hackathon. Now's perfect time to drop a token. We had it all planned out. So we thought, push a button, you got a token. It's not like that. The token launch is probably one of the most stressful things you can go through. And realistically, it's going to take 3-4 of your team members, three weeks to a month of just non-stop hassle and chaos in order to keep that kind of bedded in. Especially when it's so volatile at those early stages. You have to deal with snipers, you have to deal with the community. There's so much going on. You really have to be prepared and locked in for that token launch. So I say, probably don't do a token launch kind of a day after you've won the hackathon. Like I'd focus that as kind of a little bit later down the line, and then really just use that hype from the hackathon to generate kind of more users, more product ideas, and more community. Get that community bought in first, maybe offer an incentives program rather than go in token. So I think that was the first thing that we really learned was you've got to kind of zone in on exactly where you're good at. So for us, it was kind of doubling down on getting our snipers working, getting all the copy trading working, and then how we could then bring that out to get more customers. So then we launched our kind of Fluxbeam trading interface, which allows the fastest trade execution there is. And that was, again, how do you make users money? Well, users are losing money on slow execution time. So it's really important once you're post-hackathon, you've got all this hype, you've got all the interest, you've got Colosseum, you've got Solana Foundation all pushing you. Make the most of that because within a month, it will be gone. It won't, not fully gone, but the hype won't be as much. So that 1 month there is kind of your golden ticket if you win of, okay, we now need to push this as far as we can. So again, scaling. I think that's really important. If you win, you're going to have funding from Colosseum. So get hiring or get at least interviewing straight away because, yeah, there's an exponential amount of work will come from this hackathon. And if you're using your existing team that was locked in for a couple of weeks, chances are you're a little bit burnt out. So you're going to need more people to come in and help and hire where you're weak. I think that's another really important thing. If you've got a BD hole, hire for it and get it in as quickly as you can. Because again, after a month, you're going to start petering out on the hype from the initial hackathon, and you're going to lose those easy opportunities that you'd have if you would just had the team kind of ready to go.
Yeah, because one thing we say is like getting that win is like an easy way to open any conversation with any partner. It's like such a huge, big proof of work for your company and validation by an external source that you are like building something really good and that you are worth the conversation to be able to have. It matters afterwards as well, but like you just said, like in that initial like month afterwards, that's when it's hot. That's when you can really like strike the iron and be able to make sure that things are getting out there and you're really being able to push on.
I think raising as well. I think that's a really important one. Like if you are looking to raise, if you're not fully bootstrapped, or if you do want to look at the VC side, I think that month is where you've got kind of a golden ticket again. You'll be able to get in front of most VCs. Obviously, you're still going to have to pitch. You're going to have to nail down your pitch with Colosseum, but you're going to get a lot easier kind of route into some of these bigger VCs than if you were to just go in and try and cold pitch these and send it to their email. That month is where you should try and at least close your initial round.
And like with investors, like building those relationships up beforehand, so when it is hot, you're like the relationships are also really warm to be able to go into. So you should always be of the mentality of like, I'm wanting these relationships, I'm sharing what we're doing. And like what you're going to the investor with is like, kind of get feedback. You're not going to like invest into what I'm doing. Just like, hey, I've seen you've invested into these other portfolio companies. We're doing something in a similar remit. Can I get your feedback on what you kind of think on it and establishing a relationship? So that when these moments happen, you're ready. You've got all the connections there to be able to activate on it, and you can really just like take that scale as you can get it.
Yeah. I think like incubators are a great one to do that as well. So like I think 6 months afterwards, after we won the initial hackathon, we actually entered into a OV bootcamp.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Like from a pitch deck perspective and getting yourself like fundraising ready, absolutely fantastic. I'd recommend it to anyone because it's 3 months of their VCs. They know exactly how to get these pitches nailed down. You get access to all their advisors, all their resources. And it's basically like, okay, fine tune your pitch for 3 months. And then you've got just an absolutely solid pitch to go out to anyone else. And they open up their investor relations to you as well. So if you do get the opportunity to do an incubator, obviously Colosseum runs its own incubator, which is great to start with, but always be the lookout for these other incubators where you can get more knowledge or more understanding of kind of where you're missing. And for us, it was fundraising. So that's why we went into the bootstrap.
Yeah, like with Super Team as well, we have relationships with a lot of these incubators, whether it be like Alliance DAO, Orange DAO, even the Solana Labs have their own incubator. So we can fast track you into these as well. You just need to give us the ammo. Give us like that hackathon one gives us some ammo. Some of these like big traction points of like we've been able to work with these users. They really love it. There's a market growth here. That gives us the ammo to be able to get you in these spaces. And it's just always consistently, Colosseum's a really good chance to just like give you that focus in that period of like, cool, we're going to ship, we're going to get it to the end. This hackathon, we're going to push this latest feature. And then afterwards, it's like, it's still got to wake up the next day and continue building a startup. Like it never ends at the end of the hackathon. It's designed as a startup competition. So you've got to keep on building and being able to make sure that this is just a nice step in your journey. And it gives you that little bit of push and motivation. And I find usually like alignment in your team as well. Everyone likes a little bit of competition, especially when you're building a startup. So it aligns the team to be like, cool, let's ship for this, let's build for this. Gives you a hard deadline you got to go towards. And then even after the Colosseum, we're going to have our UK demo day. So there's 20K up for grabs there. We've got a media grant from Cointelegraph to give you some PR there afterwards. And that's going to be a chance for, you don't just have these big global prizes to tap into, but are these local prizes here to be able to go forward. And then we're going to be working with some of those top teams. And we're always going to give like a little fundraising task force to be able to help you with that raise. So a couple of the winners out of that, we're going to do a lot more curated support in order to be able to help guide you through those next stages. And then, as you said, you've got these fast tracks and these accelerators as well, which can continue to add on. So you're getting multiple different areas of support as you're building that startup. And so I think we talked a lot about the hackathon and a lot about what can be going there. I'm curious of your thoughts of just like the Solana ecosystem as a whole. Like where your personal like vision of what you're building and how you're contributing to the ecosystem. But I'm curious on like your general thoughts on where you kind of see the space going.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting one. I think we've been through probably the worst times on Solana. So we joined at the worst time. But I mean, it's been getting better year on year. I think now the whole fired answer agave stuff's all done as well, or not done, but they've started building again, which is nice. We've had the performance improvement. So the whole ecosystem as a whole, I think, is moving in a really positive direction. I think there's still a ton of stuff to be built in order to get us to where like even like normal developers from Web 2 can jump on. There's still so many kind of pain points from the validator stack upwards. There's a lot of work to be done, like quite frankly. So I think for the next 3 years, we're still going to be in hardcore building mode to fix some of these key issues. Hopefully over the next couple of months, we'll start nailing them down. But yeah, I think overall positive. It's a questionable of where kind of the foundation is going to go long term. I think we spoke about that earlier. Is like their idea is to disappear as an entity. So it's going to be interesting to see how that impacts, say, delegated stake and all of this. So there's some more challenges on the horizon, I think. We've got the whole SIMD debates as well that seem to be quite fiery. So there's a lot of contention at the core level, I think, around where the infrastructure goes. But from a platform perspective, I think just kind of it's an open ocean of opportunity at the moment. Like, yeah, just pick a pain point, solve it, and then go to speak to one of the kind of main ecosystem people. I think it's the best time to be building on Solana if you've got kind of an idea that solves an issue.
And what are you personally most interested in? Like, well, where is your curiosity taking you in terms of like, I want to focus on this, like this is where I think we can be able to have the most value as a team?
Yeah, I think for us it's latency and developer experience. We've been building for 5 years now, so we've been through every scaling pain point hopefully there is to have on Solana. So we're really focusing on that as our next product. We're bringing out developer-focused tooling that removes these pain points so you guys can actually just focus on building apps rather than spending 6 months in infrastructure. Like we spent, I think, probably at least 6 months on transaction delivery last year. It sapped up a huge amount of time, and there's a few more of those ones kind of we want to tackle to basically solve. So I think that's where we're mainly focused on. And then on the heuristic side with RoadCheck, pushing out more information, more metrics, more integrations. Obviously, it's a free and open platform, so there's an open API on there, and we integrate as many protocols as we physically can. There's a lot, so it sometimes takes us a few weeks to get through them, but I think that's where we're focused at the moment. We're really trying to cut down on the amount of scams or blatant rugs, and then on the other side, reduce latency is our main key.
And because what are you like the motivation behind like cutting down the scams, things like this. Is it something that you're hearing from like users who are trying to get into? Could you talk about developer ecosystem, improving that as well? Are you hearing like as people are coming in, like they're facing these like roadblocks, and that's what's like fueling your guys' motivation to be able to continue building these solutions?
Yeah. I mean, so we had it personally from kind of the core team members, but then equally, I mentioned earlier, we've got this small Vietnamese office that we're building out to try and onboard devs into Solana. And it's been a huge eye-opener for us of like, okay, a new dev coming in, what we take for granted, they're like, hey, how the hell does this work? Or what do I do here? So that's been a real eye-opener of where we need to focus to try and resolve it. I would say 90% of it's documentation because it just doesn't exist. But that would be nice to have. And then, on the latency side, it's more around bringing Solana into a usable way of where you don't have to think this outside of the box program model. More, you can just think of it as a relational DB. And the scam side, like, I mean, we work with like kind of a fair few of the DeFi platforms, and it's rife. Like it always will be. I mean, we've seen Hayden from the Trump and Melina launches. Like it's never ending amounts of scams. So I think if we can do anything to improve the look of crypto and go, hey, look, there's 50% less scams than there was last year, I think we'd be happy with that. Just anything to try and improve that image.
And with then the developer experience, like what would you say is the starting point? So like how does the developer start building on Solana now? Like what are the stages that they should go through?
I think the first big roadblock is just wallets in general. Doing the Web3 wallets is just a nightmare of kind of getting your head around it. So I think that's an initial one. Obviously you've got non-custodial wallets, Fluxbot's a non-custodial wallet. So there's other ways of doing it which speed up your velocity. And then, it's the Web3 mess that we have to deal with of calling for specific accounts, decoding PDAs, creating complex transactions, decoding instructions, like all of the just kind of core, what we call like byte twiddling stuff that a junior dev coming in, they're not going to want to sit there and try and decode 64 bytes of random arbitrary data. They're just going to want to have something they can go, okay, fetch all token accounts or fetch all DeFi positions or whatever it is, like a standard REST API. The RPC system as a whole, I think, is the biggest blocker to new devs coming on because it is just such a foreign implementation compared to anything else you'd experience in kind of Web 2, unless you're an old school like JDBC dev or something like that.
And what do you think would be the big then change for it? Are there some people building products that you think are going to be really helpful out there? Are there like individual developers who like you're really proud of, like they're pushing on next stages? Like what do you think would be a really good helping point for that?
Yeah, so I think there's a fair few different companies working on it. And full disclosure, we're working on it as well. So we're working on those kind of API layers. But I think there is a concerted effort across all validators at the moment, looking at this RPC spec and going, well, everyone's known it's terrible for 4 years, 5 years. 5 years ago, we were talking about RPC 2.0, similar to Token 22. It kind of takes 4 or 5 years to get kind of into fruition, but I think we'll see some movement on that this year. It's definitely going to heat up competition-wise on the RPC and validator layer. I can say that for sure. So it's been a big stagnant, and I think that's what's caused this kind of lapse in. You've had all these great apps being built, but the infrastructure side's lagged for known reasons. But I think that's where this kind of big focus is going to be. All the others are looking at this, and there's some cool new products coming out. Miles from Zero Engineering had like a streamed data implementation. So they're all still, I'd say, in their early stages, but looking quite promising to just remove that entire stack. And I think even the Ansa guys would be happy to get rid of RPC stack.
It's going to be interesting to see where it all goes because, like over the next couple of years, like the ecosystem market will continue like expanding, growing. Like it'll be interesting to see how easy you are able to get it and like they allow people to be able to build into the ecosystem, start shipping out these products that could be slightly better for them as like they're building out their business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think on costing as well. I mean, I think every RPC payment plan at the moment, if you want to run anything productions, like $500-600, maybe more if you've got high scale. So that is another huge blocker we're looking at. It's like, why, as a new incumbent to an industry, do you need to start paying someone that amount of money just to see if something works? So I think if we can bring pricing down on the RPC layer, it allows more devs to jump in and experiment. I think that's just net good for the ecosystem as well.
Very cool. All right. Was like to take us to then the final point, what would you say is then like a final, just bring us back to the hackathon as well, like what would be any like final lessons that you would like be able to share to anybody around the experience winning afterwards. Like we talked about the first point, when you're building up towards it, how can you be getting in front of the judges? How you can be asking for feedback? How you can be building in public and constantly getting those users to be working with you so you can refine out that product. If you can get to IRL events and be able to meet people in person, be able to be a real guiding force there so you can build those personal relationships with everybody. After the hackathon, being prepared for the scale. It's like your opportunity. If you win, you get that real big boost behind you. So how can you build momentum on that, higher, grow from there, and be able to kick on? Would you have any final points before we go to like 1 or 2 questions?
Yeah, I think it's just stay focused on that go-to-market, get that one liner nailed down. Like chances are, if you can get that one liner nailed down for the hackathon, you're not going to have any issues fundraising. So I know it's hard, especially as engineers, to have to focus on PowerPoints, but it's where you're going to win. You can build the most fantastic thing in the world, but if you can't do that presentation like a PowerPoint, it's not going to matter. It's an annoying fact, but it's just kind of the way I think these hackathons run.
And we're here to help you get that one liner. Cool. So are there any questions for Cloak? Karen over there? You can just...
Yeah,
I'll repeat it.
So one of your points is just around kind of getting with that, coordinating issues like top quality. I think, over the last couple of years, obviously the participation in the hackathon is like grown exponentially, right? I think this year also was like 7,000 participants, something like that. Like, what else would you say could really make you stand out from one of the other 6,999 participants?
Yeah. So just for everyone listening, the question is, how can you stand out against all of the other applicants? The number of beings has been growing, so now it's in the thousands. So what's like one key ways you think people can stand out?
Yeah, I mean, I'd firstly take that number with a bit of pinch of salt. A lot of those are probably just blank entries. But yeah, the fact remains it's a very highly competitive kind of implementation now. So I'd say the main things are, that shiny pitch deck, and then social. Get as much noise as you physically can on socials. Pester founders, pester people you want to get integrated, and really just try and drum up any amount of noise you can for it. Because the chances are, if the devs or the judges have seen it on Twitter, they're going to more likely click on your deck. And then I'd say video is the other thing. Really make sure you've got a nailed down, really tidy presentation of it, of where you're physically there speaking. Because I think one of the big ones is non-docs devs or anonymous accounts submitting stuff. If you're already there, and not specifically docs, but if you've got a video, the judges over the unmarked one that they'll see. So I'd say they're probably the 200 plus judges. So yeah, you should be able to just go after those guys.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. So we run like a B2B process. There's never going to be much hype around B2B businesses or B2C businesses, right? You're going to see photos of people like posting B2C, but it's like B2C, but B2B not so much. So that kind of that additional information you gave around like the judges, I think is like really important. So I'm definitely going to incorporate that into our strategy.
I think for B2B as well, like really focus on the revenue side, because I mean, all the B2C stuff, okay, it might have revenue, but B2B, like it's quite easy to show that, okay, look, like this, we're either revenue generating already, or we've got some initial traction, and this is where we can project it out. Because I think actual revenue generating protocols at the moment are very, very interesting. So yeah, I'd really focus on that sales side of there, going, well, look, this is our growth strategy over the next year. If we were to win, okay, this is our growth strategy with the funding. And try and position it a bit more like that.
And when you're growing out those socials as well, you can think about it as you have 2 different accounts. Because you've got your company account and you've got your personal account. Like I think you do this really well of like you personally get out there and you're actively on the timeline pushing things out and talking about what's going on. Because that's sometimes easier way to engage with the judges rather than engaging them from your company account, be engaging them from your personal account. And then when they click into a personal, you've got your company account in your bio. And then so then they can click through to that to then see you. You see it all the time with like founders have bigger social accounts than their company accounts. And that's because people are like connecting with people. So if you're able to, you just follow all the judges, turn on post notifications, anytime that they post something that you feel like you can engage with in something witty, in something insightful, something that continue the conversation, then you're able to then reply with that. And your goal is how do you get the judge to engage with a comment? Once they've engaged with your comment, how do you get them to follow you? And then once they've gotten to follow you, how do you get them to retweet one of your posts? And then if they're following you and retweeting one of your posts, they've probably then seen your company. And then how do you get them following your company account as well? And that just comes from you consistently adding value to the timeline. Like that founder-led marketing is so important. And in crypto and Web3, it's all on X, it's all on Twitter. So how are you being able to make sure you're getting out there? I think it's something that I think everyone struggles with in their own way. Like even myself, I'm trying to get better at how I can be posting and pushing things on the timeline, figuring out what's the best way, what's the best format for me, long form, short form. I know I'm good at that comment reply guy stuff. So that's what I do. And I'm always looking for like ways I can instigate more. And so for you as well, it's like, what is in your best form of content? Part of the reason why I'm doing this podcast is because that's good content for me. I'm good at like speaking and like talking with people. So we're designing things around like, cool, how can we be able to create content and get out there? And so for you guys, like looking at that, like what you do really well is that you're watching the transactions, like when something happens on chain, you're like, you call that out. And then you do your deep dives, you show all of this follow through, like you consistently are able to do that. So that's the value people get from when they follow you and then they see your content. And that's why some things can go viral, because you capture it. You get it quick, you get it right when it's hot, and then you're able to then get that scale and get that growth from it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's just all about getting a conversation going. Like if you can, I mean, I'm quite bad for it. I put a lot of stuff out that annoys people, but at the same time, it does get people talking and you do get a good kind of conversation going. Yeah, like you hit the nail on the head, is just find those judges, just focus them into a funnel and just be relentless on it. Don't chill because you probably get blocked or whatever, but yeah, really be kind of focused or hyper focused on those judges. Maybe pick 20 that you really want to get in front of. And yeah, I'm sure like you're in super team, so someone will be able to put you in front of them or get you a contact somewhere, and use those contacts where you can. I mean, super team's probably the best thing you can utilize for the hackathons, to make full use of it, I reckon.
And like that's a good rule of thumb. When you're engaging with them, don't shill your product.
Yeah.
You're in your comment, never tag your product in it, because you want it to become genuine. You want it to be a sincere reply to just like continue the conversation to get out there. Cool. All right. Another question.
You touched on a question that you might as well take this.
Yes, you touched on a question I was going to ask, but I wanted to ask in terms of when you're posting from your personal account and you're seeing these transactions happening, are there any moments when you think, okay, this needs to be posted from the company account? That's, it could be something major that's happened. It's like your decision making of where and which account should post it. Is it your personal or your company? And then which one should retweet or quote tweet, or vice versa. They seem to be tough decisions sometimes, how you should go about it, even though it seems like it shouldn't really be an issue. But like you said, I think someone might go on your personal account and then find and sometimes it can be vice versa. So how do you decide what is important to post there rather than there?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, and again, we haven't got it right either. It's a constant challenge of knowing what's going to get engagement versus what's not. We put anything pseudo official on our company account, and then we just cross retweet. And then anything risky or suspicious or a little bit of left wing, I'll post on my side. And then depending on how it goes, we might retweet it from the company account. But we try to keep them separate, so they've almost got their own identity. But then, like, I use all of our tools for all of our analytics. So when I do post something anyway, it's all Fluxbeam, it's all Flux related. So it kind of funnels them that way. But I agree, it's a really tricky decision to have. I think, like, because I've gone with a more kind of call out strategy on Twitter, that doesn't work to post on the company because bad message. But if you've got more of kind of like Cap is like a very reply guy kind of implementation, that works really well from company side. But I think it's just experimentation. The trends change on Twitter every time he makes a change to the algorithm anyway. So what will work for a month will stop working suddenly, and you have to go find a new strategy.
And I guess like a general rule of thumb I would probably give, you keep, like you just said, like the official stuff. You can have that go on your company account, like an official announcement, updates, kind of things like that. And then you can always be quote retweeting from your personal, kind of giving the unique insights behind it and kind of sharing it. What's quite fun is that any quote retweets, the views that quote retweet gets will follow also to the tweet that's been quote retweeted. So one thing that usually happens is your personal account or your company account doesn't get that much engagement, that many views. And so you can be almost like organically boosting your company views by quote retweeting it from your personal. Because in your personal, all of those, like if it was 500, 200, 10,000, all of that then follows through to that one as well.
Yeah, just to add on to that as well, I think for the hackathons, it's particularly important to try and focus on your personal Twitter. It's like we failed, 5+ hackathons, but every single time we did that, we still went through the whole rigmarole of posting on Twitter, showing our progress. So just by the fact that after 5 hackathons, we actually had a pretty big personal following that then allowed us to win, I think, or help get us in front of more people. So it is an iterative process, but the personal account can be reused multiple times with many different products, whereas your business account's got one product, and if it doesn't work, then you may have wasted all that social equity. Whereas if it's on your personal account, you can retain it and then move it into something else.
That's a good point. Yeah, you're building like the social accounts are like assets in themselves, you know. So like you are building up a lot. I think a good example of this is Z. So I think it's Soulworks on Twitter. He launched the airdrop checker app, and he constantly did it on his own personal, and he was like constantly posting on that, and he grew his account from like 2,000 followers to 20,000 followers. Like in really quick over the space of like 4 months. Now that's an asset, you know. And he's launching now Pole.fun. You know, he's able to post about that on his personal, and he started a new company account. And so you're able to then utilize all of that hype to be able to continue growing into the next stage. Awesome. Okay, yeah. MC, one more question.
Yes, just a question. I mean, it's good to actually post from your personal one from your company account. But when you do it from your personal, do you to some point worry about like any forms of like doxing, maybe forms of like how that might impact your project, your company, or your parents' personal?
Yeah. The question there was just about like when you're posting on personal or your company, like what does that feel like on doxing and being able to be publicly out there?
Yeah, it's a really important point. I think if you do docs, you've got to be kind of very cognizant of what you're doing, because you are in a public forum, you're in a public spotlight, you're no longer hiding behind kind of an NFT animal picture. So there's swings and roundabouts with it. I'd say be very, very cautious of going doxed route straight away. If you are entering a hackathon anyway, you have to do a little bit of KYC, so it's not going to hurt your chances from that side. But yeah, I think go with an approach to the get-go of, okay, I'm going to stay doxed, or I am going to dox, and then play into that. I think a lot of especially the UK founders aren't doxed, but their PFP is now kind of known. Like I think Sujuko's a perfect example of this. No one knows who he is. There's a few validators that no one knows who they are, but they've got huge public followings because they've lent into that anonymity. But yeah, I think it comes down to personal circumstance. It's always going to be better to be doxed from a public perspective because it builds more trust, but you have implicit issues with that as well.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Do you want to do it?
I think I just to add to that. I think I've been in this space for 10, 12 years now. Before it used to be cool to be anonymous. Now you share with your friends, say, hey, there's this project anonymous. Like, oh, it's a rug pull.
Yeah.
So now it's a very thin line between, does your network trust you now? Or the thing is, if the founders are not, it's a rug pull.
And again, your position and build that trust over time. It's better than them. Cares if you're really for the past 4 years and you see these people come in 6 months in and out, rug pull 2 or 3 times, and you never hear from them again. So I do agree having that portfolio
So now we'll head into the Hive room, so you guys can get some one-on-one feedback. So whoever wants to be able to join us, that can come and jump in. And then the last thing I will mention around, I don't know if everyone's noticed, there is a door here in the sanctuary. So this is the diary. So what you can be able to do is each day you can go press the doorbell. You've got 60 seconds to kind of share what you've been shipping today. You know, the progression of your project over the course of BuildStation. What we have one of our editors. We can see it straight away. They're going to be chopping it up into little clips, and then we're going to be posting those out. So we can be able to help you get a little bit of exposure, get that founder-led marketing, putting you out there to be able to get that kind of support. And it kind of hopefully creates like a nice little story across the next couple of weeks that we'll be able to stitch all of those together, and we'll then be able to deliver to you like a full little video breaking down your journey at BuildStation. So feel free over the course of the day, jump over there, record your 60-second video sharing about what you've been able to build so far, and we'll stitch it all together to create a cool little update. So, yeah. Awesome. All right. We're all good. Let's go around to the workshop room.